James Larsen-Scott from Australia versus Autumn Burchett of the UK. Gruul Adventures versus Dimir Control. What do you think of this matchup?
Ooh, yeah, this is an exciting one. Dimir Control just has a ton of removal, extinction events in the main deck. And yeah, like I said, just a ton of removal, topping off at Lochmere Serpent. I got to give it to Dimir Control, but that's not a landslide or anything. A pretty close matchup, but slightly in favor of Dimir.
You say not a landslide as we have a look at Shadow Skull smashing in the deck, or in the opening hand here of Autumn Burchett. What's the consideration here for this hand? Is this a keep?
Yeah, this is close. It's slightly awkward because the Akroan War is basically useless. So you're kind of at a mulligan already there. Shatter Skull Smashing is not going to be good either, except for being a land. So you still get Bone Crusher Giant as a 3-drop. And then the Great Henge is unbelievable in this matchup. It's really hard to deal with, but I think it's a close keep.
Take a look at the other side of things. James Larsen-Scott sending back a card there. Has access to an Eliminate and not much else. That is a lot of lands.
Yeah. One removal spell, but with already being at a mulligan, you just have to keep that.
Temple of Deceit going to come on down and hopefully find something useful. Not at all. Goes down to the bottom. And there is the 2-drop that you just love to see in Brushfire Elemental.
Had it the whole time, Ailey.
Unfortunately, it's going to be quite dead soon, courtesy of an Eliminate. But you know what? It's still the thing you want to see on turn 2 as the Gruul player.
Exactly. It may be dead to Eliminate, but that means Bone Crusher Giant will probably get to live because of it. So not bad. Not bad.
It'll live for a turn or two, considering Hagra Mauling was drawn off the top there from James Larsen-Scott. As the Brushfire Elemental is swinging in here for 3 points of damage, and here comes the Eliminate.
One thing I want to point out about James Larsen-Scott, one of our challengers in this event, off to a 4-0 start, which is already phenomenal, qualified through Magic Online.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice indeed. Representing the land down under.
Yes. And Autumn, no surprise that she's 4-0, just an all-star and just so good at Magic. It's unreal.
Oh, yes. Autumn has been impressive every single time that we've seen her play, so very excited to see how this matchup unfolds. And she's a big fan of Gruul too. Like every time we see Autumn playing, it's either Dimir something or Gruul something, or just, you know, mono red goblins in Historic this time around. But
100%.
Her love of Gruul extends to her left shoulder, I believe it is. She's got a tattoo of the Gruul symbol on her arm.
Oh, really? That's so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my love of Autumn began when she started playing Temur Reclamation. I watched so many of her videos to level up when I played the deck. It was like a work of art to watch her play that deck.
Yeah. Oh, it's Great Henge time. Unfortunately, there's a Thassa's Intervention, but, you know, we can dream and hope that that powerful artifact comes on down. Also, Embercleave as an option available to Autumn. What do you like here, Corey?
You know, what I think I would have liked from James there, first of all, would have just been to Mauling or Murderous Rider that Bone Crusher right away. I was just looking at Autumn's list to see if there was Vivian. That would be a good reason to not do that. But it seems like you could stop the Great Henge from landing if you just killed the creature. But, you know, getting it out of the hand with a counterspell, completely fine as well.
Yeah. So, no immediate threat from the Great Henge, and Heartless Act takes care of the Bone Crusher Giants. Lovestruck Beast drawn off the top of the library.
Excellent draw there, being able to get 2 threats down, even if, you know, one of them dies here at end step to the Swift End, the other half of Murderous Rider. You could still maybe get a little froggy and strap that 1/1 to good old Embercleave. It still works. It still gets the job done.
It's not as terrifying as a 5/5 wielding the cleave, but certainly something that you don't hate to have, as Swift End takes care of the Lovestruck Beast.
Yeah, when you're at 7 already, though, I mean, that's a 2-turn clock if it were to land. And ooh, here's your first target for a Crowan War. We'll see if we can cast an otherwise pretty dead card in the matchup.
Yeah, I'd be down to steal that.
Oh yeah, it's very tempting here. Alternatively, you can just attack, Ember Cleave it up. You get to take down the Murderous Rider. Now, we know with perfect information that that play would quote unquote work, but working is just still trading your creatures here. So I'm not in love with that play.
Yeah, opts to go for just the Kazandu Mammoth. That's going to hang out. And then next turn, hopefully going to see a big old cleave from Autumn Burchett.
Oh, yeah, definitely. With holding on to that Shatter Skull Smashing, both because it could be a useful removal spell, but also a land drop to trigger landfall here whenever Autumn were to draw one of these landfall creatures.
Very nice draw here for James as he finds a neutralize after the Hagra Maulings to take care of the biggest creature. Now he's going to start applying pressure to the life total and just pad his own with this Murderous Rider.
Yeah, really big draw here. And now that we're at this stage of the game where we're pretty much out of gas from Autumn, you know, this Akroan War is going to be pretty decent, probably soak up and neutralize. But now we get to the point where James top decks, some of them are awkward because it's like counter spells, but some are just gigantic, like Shark Typhoon, Lockmere Servant, Ashiok. A lot of good draws that James can top deck here.
Yeah. So James let through the Akroan War. Murderous Rider is going to hang out with Autumn for a little while. And Edgewall Innkeeper, will this receive a neutralize? Or are we going to just cycle that away?
Yeah, interesting here to let the Akroan War go. The one thing about the card by design is eventually you'll get that Murderous Rider back. So that's probably what James has on his mind. But, you know, that's still an attacker that's coming in.
So both neutralize, poised and ready for an Embercleave, potentially coming down, being very, very patient and disciplined in what he uses his neutralizers on.
And the flip side, Autumn, you know, being super patient, waiting for a spot to cast Embercleave, decides that spot is now.
Down to 4. Scavenging Ooze makes its appearance.
I like how this was set up here because we're going to notice this Akroan War is going to give Murderous Rider back with that Shatter Skull Smashing with just enough mana to kill Murderous Rider. That lanes up a lethal attack. We know that. Oh my!
The phone.
That was huge.
Goodness gracious me! Oh my! Goodbye to the even things. Oh, it doesn't matter.
Goodbye to what again? Goodbye to what? Here we
Nothing.
go. Nothing.
It's just yep. Good game. There we go.
What a draw!
Beast off the top in for Exactsies. That is going to be game number 1 going to Autumn Burchett. My goodness me! What a draw! What a top deck!
That was just unreal. That is exactly why you put Questing Beast in the deck, to just draw when your opponent is at exactly 4 life. Just high skill play there, that's for sure.
Sometimes you're skilled, sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're both.
Oh, yeah. And Questing Beast here, I think, is at a great spot in the metagame. Not only is it really good in this matchup, just the haste threat when, you know, whenever an Extinction event hit or Wrath effect hits, but against Esper Doom, I think this card just shines. It is one of the toughest cards to deal with from that deck's perspective.
So talk to us a little bit about sideboarding here. How does Autumn change the deck list up against James?
Probably. So we see the Vivians coming in, Oxes coming in. Normally you think Ox of Agonis as this strictly rogue card, but it's also just a card that you're very happy to play after you've played everything else in your hand. And then if it were to die to something other than Extinction Event, most of the time the games go long enough so that you get to actually escape it at least once. It's not as crazy as against rogues, but I think that's basically it. Take the Akroan Wars out. And call it a day.
Alrighty, well, let's see how that game plan goes in game number 2 here. Autumn Burchett up a game against James Larsen-Scott on Dimir control. Gruul Adventures doing what Gruul Adventures do best and delivering an absolute beatdown when necessary.
Yep, absolutely. And this hand, you know, you look and it's just like, yeah, that's a little bit too much land, but you have the Ox to top out at. So, you know, of course there's counter spells in James Larson's deck and it's not always going to work, but if that curve were to work, you just get to draw 3 extra cards off the, so I like to keep.
Yeah. James's hand is also very, very nice indeed. Lots of interaction, lots of counters, and then talk about topping off the curve. Hey, Ugin.
Yeah.
How you doing?
The only thing I don't love about the hand, and maybe it just bleeds over into about the deck, is without Maze Mind Tome, you just don't really have that constant flow of cards. So while you're able to answer everything on a 1-for-1 basis and kill all these, the first 5 creatures or whatever, adventure cards in particular, they're naturally 2 cards already. And if you're not hitting your land drops and have something really big like Ugin, it just can be a little awkward at times, but very powerful when it works perfectly, of course.
Lovestruck Beast coming on down here to join his heart's desire. Worried about sharks, perhaps? Are there shark typhoons?
Yeah, looks like there are 3 shark typhoons in the main. Yeah, goes up to the full 4. So yeah, discipline, no attack. We know that James didn't have it, but the 1 point of damage, not worth the risk.
For sure. You want to be able to get your Lovestruck Beast attacking, but it's not going to attack anymore since Heartless Act took care of it.
Yeah, and at this point, without Lovestruck Beast, it's like, yeah, sure, I'll trade for a shark at this point. Autumn a little unfortunate there to only have drawn Embercleave and Lovestruck Beast, but nothing to cast this turn is slightly awkward. And then having to, if you want to cast something next turn, either Ox or Embercleaving a 1/1. The Ox is a little brutal with having to discard your whole hand. So I wouldn't be too shocked if we see just an Embercleave here, just because you want to play it before you play Ox of Agonis.
Yeah, Embercleave on 1/1. I'm down for that. Let's see it happen.
Oh, yeah. Sign me up.
So 2 attacks, 1 attacker in. Embercleave is available. Gonna crack Fabled Passage, find another basic, and get that powerful artifact down on the battlefield.
One play James Larsen could have done there with the sack ability on the stack is Hagra mauling the 1/1, and then Embercleave couldn't have been cast. That's kind of a bad use for a premium removal spell, but it was one cute play that was available to James. Hiya.
Hiya, indeed. 4 points of damage, you'll take it. Extinction event drawn off the top, so certainly no lack of interaction here for James Larsen.
Yep. Doesn't even care to Blood Chief's Thirst that. That's interesting.
He's just like, it's just a 1/1 with a stick. It's not scary at all.
4 damage? That's nothing. Famous last words.
For Dimir control players, usually not.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
So Edgewall Innkeeper is the draw for Autumn Burchett. When do we fire off this Ox of Agonis? It's gonna
I think right now.
Yeah, unless the neutralize is a little hasty there on the Edgewall Innkeeper, but nope, it is not.
Yeah,
so
and here's the thing. This is what you want if you're playing an Ox from Autumn's side, is you want this to get countered. Of course you wouldn't mind drawing 3 cards here, but Ox is much safer in your graveyard than it is in the battlefield most of the time because of Ugin, because of Extinction Event, because of these cards that can exile it. So if it gets countered, you shrug your shoulders and be like, yeah, it's coming back.
Yeah. So perhaps, I mean, what's scarier, having an Ox in the graveyard or having 3 extra cards in Autumn's hands?
Depending on the hand, of course. But I think Ox in the graveyard is just pretty frightening because eventually you're going to be able to bring it back here. So yeah, I would say that.
All right. Great
this
henge
is pretty
now.
insane.
It's going to get a great henge out here.
Yeah. Not often that it's cast for 7 and it's like a good play, but it's perfectly fine here thanks to that 1/1 that's been on the battlefield for a few turns. So
pulling its weight, that's for sure.
Yeah, and Ugin notably cannot exile the Great Henge unless you tick it up first, because the Great Henge technically does cost 9.
Oh, I'm just thinking again, is there a big old shark? And decides not to attack.
Respecting it.
Respect the Sharknado. Here comes Ugin. Hey, buddy. This is one way to deal with a 1/1.
Yeah, no kidding. An expensive way, but it's definitely an effective way. So 4, 3, or 6. We have like 7 mana for Shatterskull Smashing here. Ugin is at 9 though, so that's not going to do it. And the one thing is, Ox of Agonis right now is not really, it's not highlighted, so we cannot bring it back. So all of a sudden, this Ugin does look extremely good, being able to clean up every single permanent right now if James Larsen does want to do that next turn. Scavenging Ooze to get to draw the card. Drawing into a forest, not anything really too special. Now it's a tough choice just if we want a Shatterskull Smashing just to lower Ugin enough to make sure you can't just exile the Great Henge and the Embercleave. And the thing that I would love here from Autumn, and we'll see if it's done here, is leaving up just 1 green mana so that Ugin's +2 ability can't just clean up the ooze,
Yeah. So Autumn would love to get an Embercleave attached to this ooze and get this game over and done with. But first things first, let's shatter some skulls with Shatterskull Smashing. X equals 6. X is 12. My, oh my.
Hello.
Lovely doubling effect there if X is 6 or more.
Yeah, of course. The doubling
so
effect. I was totally missing that. My apologies. Oh, yeah, this looks way better then.
All right, so Extinction Event's going to take care of this oozy woos. That's no longer a factor on this battlefield. Do we have enough for an Ox? Well, we have another Ox now, so let's get this out, shall we?
I believe we have more than enough mana for that Ox we just drew. That's what you meant, right, Ailey?
Yes, yes, indeed.
Wow. Yeah, and make sure to, if you're playing this at home, stack it exactly the way Autumn did there. Otherwise, you draw a card off Great Henge, and then you discard it straight away to the Ox. So that wouldn't be ideal, but that was just the best draw in the deck was another Ox. That was unbelievable.
Oh my goodness. Just look at this hand now. It's just all gas. Embercleave equipped, and we're going to swing in here for a bunch of damage because Zandu Valley going to come on down and pump up this little Brushfire Elemental. That is 10 points of damage. Down to 1 goes James Larsen-Scott. Does he have anything to deal with this battlefield? I think not.
Wow. Was I wrong with how this match was going to play out in general? This looked great for Gruul. Now, we did have a nice Ox there to push this over the edge and make it look like a complete blowout. It was closer than that, but yeah, this looked really nice from Autumn's side.
That's his intervention, digging desperately, trying to find something to deal with these creatures on the battlefield, but I don't know about you, Corey, but I'm thinking Gruul's going to get the good old beatdown going.
Oh, yeah, it's about time for my favorite button on Arena, and that is Attack All.
Kazandu Mammoth on the stack, gonna come on down. Draw some more cards. Man, Great Henge is just such a beating. Holy cow.
Yeah, impressive stuff here so far, but, James Larsen fans, have no fear. James Larsen is already into day 2 with 4 wins, so still having a phenomenal Magic tournament here.
For sure. Doing Australia proud.
Absolutely.
This is just like, well, let's see how many things I can do now.
I don't know about you. I don't know. I mean, there's people that just go right to combat and go attack all. I want to make sure I do my cool things that my deck does on the last turn. And there's really nothing cooler than going off with the Great Henge. It feels good.
Yes, it does. This is certainly a win more situation here for Autumn Burchett now. It's just, they can just swing on in here. Let's do it. Let's swing. Good game, says James Larsen-Scott. The first damage from the first strike, going to get it done there. Corey, what do you make of that game?